Newbold Targets is now Throom. Throom targets are lightweight, weatherproof, take thousands of rounds of shooting, and make shooting fun. Pick up a set for your next range trip.
All right, so when it comes to slings, right, there's a lot of different sling options that are out there, and I tell people that be familiar with the various types of slings, understand how a sling works, and understand how a sling should not work. All right, so the first thing we talk about here is the sling attachment points. I have 4 attachment points on a traditional M4 rifle, right? I have the front sight A post. I don't see a lot of those anymore, but every now and then we'll have somebody come in here with a sling attachment up at the A post, right? Fine. Then I have a delta ring, all right? So this is kind of back here by the delta ring. Then I have an end plate, and then I have a buttstock. So I have 4 different positions that I can attach my sling. My recommendation is the delta point, or the delta ring, and the buttstock. This is going to give you the most versatility from your sling. It's going to allow the sling to be draped and in a downward position, muzzle in a downward position more easily and reliably. The single point attachment typically is used back here, right? So usually if you're going to run a single point sling, this is where it's going to go. If you're going to run a 2-point sling, you have the option of either going buttstock to A post, which is too narrow, not very versatile. You have buttstock to delta ring, which is ideal. You have delta ring to end plate, which is terrible. Don't ever do that. Or if you're going to do that, let me know so I can make fun of you. All right, so those are the configurations where you want to see. There are 3 types of slings that are out there. There's single point, double point, triple point. Honestly, we don't see triple points that much anymore. And if I did see one, we'd all stand around and look at it and go, oh my God, look, it's history. Because it goes way back. And there really isn't a reason for anybody to be running a 3-point sling anymore. When it comes to donning your sling, this is how we're going to do it. Muzzle's going to be in a safe direction. I'm going to come to the back where my buttstock is with a palm up. So notice how the sling is draped in between my hand here. All I'm going to do is keep my elbow tight against my body, sling the rifle, sling up and over my shoulder. I never let the muzzle go in an unsafe direction. A lot of times when we see guys, particularly around the rifle rack, they'll get their rifle and without maintaining muzzle discipline, they'll sling up. Right? When it comes time to unsling my rifle, doff my rifle, I'm going to take my arm, I'm going to swim it out of the sling so that I can get to my thumb here and lift the sling up and over my head. Right? So again, when it comes time to donning it, pretty simple. Doffing it, pretty simple. Right? Maintain muzzle discipline at all times. Now, when it comes time for me to pick up something up off the ground, I need to maintain my muzzle discipline as well. So I want to grab my rifle at the magazine well. I'm going to move it over to my weak side so that I can keep control of it. Then I'm going to go ahead, keep the muzzle point in a safe direction as I recover whatever gear I needed to recover off the ground. Now, when it comes time to run in the sling, I have 3 ready positions or 3 slung positions. 4, but we're not going to see the 4th one in the class. The first one is front carry. Front carry it like this. All right, front carry is very easy, very reliable. It's going to be in my number 1 position that I usually see this. It's easy for me to hold this thing here because the weight of the rifle is being distributed by the sling. Easy. Right? You notice how my finger's on home position? My thumb is actually pinned in the safety so that it doesn't get accidentally deactivated. The next is going to be side carry. Side carry means I'm going to take the rifle, turn it so the ejection port faces inboard, put it against my side. Okay? This allows me to do things like walking without having that thing bounce off my nuts or my knees. Okay? Then there's rear carry, which is where I take the rifle and I'm actually going to put it behind me. This is going to be primarily if I need to go hands on somebody or something. Like if I'm going to climb up something, climb down something, or I'm going to put hands on, this is going to be the way that I would get into it. The next position, which is something that we don't typically see in our classes, simply because it's not safe to do this, is what we call traditionally rifle carry. I love this position. This is how I port a rifle a lot of times. The problem is the only way you're going to be able to do this is if the rifle is unloaded, right? We have 2 recorded incidences of the safety being deactivated from the gear and a round being fired from this position. All right? They didn't happen in my classes, but I've had students of mine that have had it happen to them or they were in a class where it happened. All right? So the only way that you can carry in this condition is if the rifle is unloaded. And I don't have a problem with it. Right? So when we're out here today, most likely everybody's going to be in a front carry position. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right. If I can get you guys to move to this side so I can demonstrate. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. All right, so our warm-up drill that we're going to start with is going to be loading and unloading. Right? As I talked about, the commands load and unload have 3 things that happen with each of them. The first thing is that I need to load the gun, and I need to check the condition of the gun after that. There's a lot of ways to check the condition. What I recommend is get in the habit of looking to see where the round is in the magazine. In this case, it's on the right. All right, I can see it's on the right. When I load the round, or load the rifle, I should now have the round on the left. So when I pull the magazine out, I should be able to see that pretty easily. All right. Another way to do that is by checking the ejection port, pulling back on the charging handle and checking the ejection port. I don't care which way you do it, just have a system. That's all I care about. When it comes to holding the magazine, there are 3 ways to hold the magazine. Beer mug, very easy, powerful grip, right? C-clamp, another good one, good technique. And then pistol version, don't do this one, right? So either going to pick C-clamp or beer mug, one of those 2. The reason why we want to choose one of these is it gives us not just good positive pressure up, but positive pressure down. So when I'm inserting my magazine, I want to push and pull. So I can do that very well this way or very well this way, right? Now, the next thing we talk about is the position that the rifle needs to be in when I'm doing any gun handling, any gun manipulations. We call it a workspace. And the workspace is a vicinity that's generally in front of your body where the rifle or the handgun is just depressed low enough to where you can see over it, so you have unincluded view of your battle space, right? It's very important that whenever you're doing any of your gun manipulations that you keep the rifle or the handgun in that workspace area so that you can monitor your battle space. That's the key. You really shouldn't need your vision to work the gun. In the beginning, yes, but as you get better, no. Your vision should be to maintain visual contact with my battle space. So, for the longest time, this was just part of our brief. Right? It's just part of how I was trained, how I trained people. And then it happened to be on September 11th, probably, I don't remember what year it was. It was 2011 maybe, I think. It could be 10 years ago. But I had a young Marine in my class who was paralyzed, shot from a wheelchair. And while I'm doing this brief, he got really anxious. And after the brief, he asked if he could address the class. And I said, absolutely. His name was Paul. I said, absolutely, Paul, go for it. And so he kind of rolled up in the middle and he started to talk about how he was shot in Iraq. So he was in the initial surge into Iraq, and what happened was him and his fire team chased some bad guys into a courtyard. He got separated, shot or chased a bad guy, shot and killed him, presumed dead, ran out of ammunition. Went through the reloading process as he'd been taught, which at the time had them depressing the magazine, depressing the muzzle, removing the mag, stowing the mag, fresh mag, seat in the mag, charge the gun, back in the fight, right? So it's much different now, but back then that's how he was taught. That's how he performed. And what happened was the bad guy reanimated. And that's what I tell people about shooting people. Shooting people is weird because they don't react the way that you see them in the movies. They react very differently. And they're very resilient. They can sustain a tremendous amount of damage. And so what happened was the bad guy had been shot well, but he had when he'd fallen to the ground, blood pressure equalized, oxygenated blood made it back to his brain, and he reanimated. And when he reanimated, he saw Paul, grabbed his AK, and was in the process of pulling the trigger as Paul comes back up on target and recognizes that the guy's aiming in on him. And that was the last thing, right? He wakes up, fortunately, he was paralyzed. He survived that gunshot wound, but it was something that he, to this day, believes, had somebody talked to him about the workspace, he would have seen the bad guy starting to reanimate, been able to take action to stop from being shot. All right? So the workspace is an important thing. Don't discard it. Don't get lazy with it. Use it. So when it comes time to load the gun, I'm going to start with the action open, right? Actually, we'll start with the action close. So when it comes time to load with the action close, what I'm going to do is bring the gun up to my workspace, rotate it outboard just a little bit. I'm going to feed the magazine in, pull down. Once I pull down and know that the magazine is seated, I'm going to go ahead and come back here, charge the gun. Once I do that, I want to regrip first. Once I regrip, now I can go ahead and do my weapons check. All right. Yep, on the left. Now's the time for me to go ahead and power up my optic. Get my optic up to where I want it to be. Now I'm ready to go. All right. If you had a light, you check your light. If you had a laser, you check your laser. Now, when it comes time to unload, I want to remove the magazine. I'm going to go ahead and stow the magazine in my mag pouch or pocket. I'm going to eject the round. Once I do that, shift my grip, lock the action open. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and check my chamber. Check my mag well. I'm going to look away, check my chamber, check my mag well. I want to do that twice. right? So the reason why I do that twice is double check our work. How many people here know if somebody's been shot with an unloaded gun? All right, so we want to avoid being another statistic. Does that make sense? Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and load with the action open. When it comes to loading with the action open, I want to push, pull, and now I have an option because I can either work the charging handle like I was doing earlier, or I can use the bolt catch. Truthfully, I don't care which one you use. I do happen to favor people that go ahead and work that charging handle for everything, because what that does is that's taking a known action and applying it to multiple unknown scenarios, right? So it's got some value there. But then some people prefer to choose a technique because it's faster, right? They think it's going to benefit them in a gunfight. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. That's, again, the great unknown. Everybody knows that, right? Everybody understands that what we're doing is we're training for an unknown. So how much of the known you put into that unknown is kind of sketchy. When people try to actually choreograph their unknown, it's a little weird to me. All right, so when it comes into loading, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push-pull. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead, charge the action, re-grip the gun, back up on target. Then I want to go ahead, check my chamber, and now I'm ready to go. All right, so two different options to doing all of that. I'm going to give you an opportunity to play with that. Here is our warm-up drill. It's going to give me a chance to check out your gear, to watch you as far as your gun manipulations. I'm going to start telling you right now that the moment you walked onto the line, I started assessing you, started observing you, and that begins, well, and now we're going to continue with that as we do the gun handling stuff.